So what's up guys, welcome back to Lexalexus. Today we are predicting more championship games. We made it to match day 15 of the championship. We've got a lot of important games to go through, including a top of the table clash against Fulham and West Brom, and some other intriguing games to go over as well. Here are the updated standings of the Lexalexus Football Prediction League. Johnny Barrett has increased his lead. He's on 134 points. I still sit in a measly third place in the table at the moment. Very little movement in the table actually. And this is what the Lexalexus Football Prediction League 1 table looks like. A bit interesting because we've got 5 new viewers in terms of this league. So welcome Jamie Kane, LJ Monk, Daniel Fisher, NFFC Charlie and Championship HQ. Welcome to joining this league, and we only need a couple more members to actually fill up the Lexalexus Football Prediction League 1, which is very exciting. If you do want to get involved in the Prediction League, please make sure you comment your score predictions for every single championship game in the comments down below. And make sure you do it before kickoff as well, because that means your score will count. But if you guys like what you see, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Let's try and aim for 20 likes on this video. It would really help. Please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. It does really help. We're trying to get to 900 subscribers as soon as we can. That would be really appreciative. And please share this video on this channel to as many people as you can. That is how we're going to grow as a community. But without any further ado, let's start predicting these weekend's games. The first game to predict is QPR going up against Nottingham Forest. Now, Queen's Park Rangers will be wanting a response for what they showed in midweek. They did have a midweek game, a chance to go into the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, but they lost out to League One Sunderland. On paper, QPR should have really won that game, and they had an absolutely atrocious offside goal given against them. But apart from that, they really didn't show enough for me. With Nottingham Forest, they would have had a couple more days rest. They definitely do need a recovery, likewise with QPR, because they were absolutely dismantled by Fulham in the City Ground with a 4-0 defeat. The first big defeat under Steve Cooper. Now, away from home, Nottingham Forest have been pretty immaculate under Steve Cooper. 4 away wins in a row. They face a QPR side who've won 3 home games in a row. So both these sides are very good in their own areas there. So they're going to be their strengths going up against each other here for a prediction. I think they might cancel each other out. I think on paper you'd think QPR should win this, but I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think Nottingham Forest will be able to match them. FIFA 22 is actually saying 2-0 to QPR. Next up, we've got the big game this weekend. Fulham going up against West Brom, 2 recently relegated teams for the Premier League, fighting for promotion. It is second going up against third place. So both of these sides would have wanted to be first place at this time, but I don't think anyone could have predicted how well Bournemouth were going to be. But this will be important. Whoever wins this game will be in the top 2 after this game weekend. And it's very important, I think, especially for Fulham. If they win this game, they'll be up to having a 4-point gap away from West Brom, which I think is very crucial for them to have against them in this stage of the competition. Now, I am a bit more confident with Fulham in terms of scoring goals. West Brom had a good performance last weekend out against Bristol City, marred by 2 really scary incidents, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we shouldn't have any of that in the crowds this time. But Fulham had a really encouraging performance against Nottingham Forest, a team in form as well. So it goes to show the quality they can have on their day. And based on what I've seen with Mitrovic and how involved Tom Cairney has been for that Fulham squad since his return, I think he'll elevate Fulham a bit. So as a score prediction, I think Fulham will win this. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for Fulham. And FIFA 22 is going for a 2-1 victory to Fulham. Next up is Bristol City going up against Barnsley. Now, both of these sides are in absolute jeopardy in terms of their record. So obviously Bristol City, they're still winners at home in 17 matches, which is absolutely outrageous with it stretching into last season. And for Barnsley, they've lost 6 games in a row, and 5 of those games they have not scored a goal. Now, last game against Sheffield United, they were 3-0 down, but they did claw a very late comeback with Devante Cole and Aurelien Esquia scoring both of their first goals for Barnsley, actually. So this maybe could be the signs that Barnsley are still trying to click together, and it could be a stage of recovery, but I'm not confident. You know, Bristol City, they were 1-0 up against Nottingham Forest in their last home game for a majority of the match, and they threw all 3 points away within a matter of a minute to Lyle Taylor's quick double. So for me, I just don't see either team getting what they want, and both teams will want to win for their own reasons. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game. FIFA 22 is going for a 0-0 draw. Next up, we've got Derby going up against Blackburn Rovers. Now, Derby, I've been quite let down. I think that's the right word for Derby quite recently. But their away performance against Coventry was a good step up from their disappointing 2-2 home draw against Luton. They fought Coventry, and they've been the only team this season to actually get something at the Ricoh Arena, which I think they should give them a pat themselves on the back for. But we've got to keep reiterating the context behind Derby's season. They really need to start trying to churn these wins now, especially with the bottom three kind of stalling their form a bit. It's a really good time for Derby to try and capitalise on that, especially if they do get a further 9-point deduction looming. They really got to try and elevate their form now more than ever. With Blackburn, they had a really bad slump. They were winless than 5, and then they hit back with a really good win against Reading. Now, away from home is a bit tricky. You know, Ben Brereton, I think, is still trying to pick up his fitness and his form that he showed at the start of the season. It'll be very disappointing for someone like Ben Brereton to drop their form now, and it'll be very, very crucial for Blackburn if he starts dropping their form now. Now, for a prediction, I won't lie, when I see this game, I think we'll see Derby with most of the ball, and Blackburn will try and counter, but Derby have proven to be organised in that area. I think they'll cancel each other out, but I don't actually think we'll get goals. I'm going to say a 0-0 draw, and both these sides have been involved with a couple of 0-0 draws already this season, so I'll predict 0-0, and FIFA 22 is actually going to agree with me. Next we've got Huddersfield going up against Millwall. Now, I've been rather impressed with both of these sides. Huddersfield, I've been impressed with their home form. I've always been really encouraged with their home form. Take away their 2-0 home defeat to Nottingham Forest. The rest of their home games, they've proven to be really on it. Now with Millwall, what I've been impressed by is that they've actually avoided the draws. They've picked up 4 wins in their last 5 matches. Of course, they did have 1 defeat in between that, which was a disappointing 2-0 home defeat to Luton Town. But the rest of the time, they've really picked up some narrow wins. A couple of 1-0 wins. We've got a couple of 2-1 wins for Millwall. And sometimes you've got to win dirty, and that's exactly what they've done. Now, I could see Huddersfield potentially having most of the ball. We've seen Huddersfield with a load of the ball, but being frustrated, you know, when they drew 0-0 at home against Birmingham. I think we're going to get a very similar game, but I think it will result in a draw, but not a goalless one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, which may be silly since Millwall have not actually had a draw in their last 5 games, but I think this will be when the drawing streak resumes. And FIFA 22 is going for a 0-0 draw, which I was quite tempted to go for, actually. Next up, we've got Hull going up against Coventry. If there's any game that Hull need to take seriously, it's this game, but also their home form. Now, Hull have lost their last 3 games, and the reason, you know, why they're in around that area of the table is because of their poor form. We thought that Hull might have rejuvenated a little bit when they picked up a really good home win against Middlesbrough, but since then they've really fallen flat, haven't they? Coventry, their kryptonite has been their away form. They've only picked up 5 away points all season in their 7 away matches, so it's going to be tricky for Coventry to get all 3 points out for me to back them. This game is so close, it could really swing either way based on one tiny decision there. I think it's really that close. At the K-Con makes it more tricky to predict as well. I'm going to go for a 2-1 away victory to Coventry. I think Hull will actually give away too many chances, so that's why I'm going to go for 2-1 Coventry. And FIFA 22 is going for 2-1. So we'll go directly opposite ways, and we'll see which one of FIFA and I is right. Let's talk about Middlesbrough going up against Birmingham. Middlesbrough have improved their form rather recently, which has seen them get into the top 6 of the table, which is rather interesting following that literally last month we were thinking, is Neil Warnock the right man for Middlesbrough to take them forward? Then all of a sudden, you know, players return from injury, players start to click. Some signings like Spora and Martin Piero, I think, have started to influence the game a little bit more. I think now Middlesbrough have now improved and actually shown a little bit more depth in their squad, which I think is good. Birmingham, they went on a really bad run, didn't they? It was 6 games without a win, but then they really hit back with a 2-1 win over Swansea, where Swansea themselves were in fantastic run of form themselves. Now, this would make a very interesting game for me. I don't think much is going to settle it, but I have been impressed with Middlesbrough's home form. I think they really do not give too much away. They don't give away too many chances. They're pretty ruthless. And I think there was a very professional performance against Cardiff last weekend too. I don't think there'll be many goals, but I think Middlesbrough might just edge this. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win to Middlesbrough, and FIFA 22 is going for a 1-1 draw. Next up, we've got Preston going up against Luton Town. Preston, I've been rather disappointed by, I won't lie. Their performance against Blackpool in the West Lancashire derby was below par, to tell you the truth. I mean, you could be below par in some games, but the fact it's a derby game, for the fact it was so long since both of these sides have played against each other, Preston did not compete. They really didn't churn too many chances that was going to really test Chris Maxwell. Blackpool didn't need to be at their best, but they got the result in the end of it. They faced a Luton side, Preston, where Luton have been able to churn up really consistent results, and obviously that has resulted them being in the top 6 as well. But it's so tight in the table that they are on the same amount of points as 11th place right now. So this weekend could really start to reshuffle things in the Championship, which does excite me. I think Preston, for the fact that they've actually not lost in their last 6 home games, they've started to be getting an unbeaten streak, especially at home. They might just get something, but Luton, they really do make me feel that I think Luton could actually get something here. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, but I would not be surprised if either one of these teams wins for different circumstances. FIFA 22 is going to go for 1-1 draw. It'll be tricky for Preston for the fact that Alan Brown is going to have to face a suspension now. Next up, we've got Sheffield United going up against Blackpool. Now, we were talking about players with suspensions. One of those players for Sheffield United sake was Morgan Gibbs-White, but he should return in this game. Now, I was thinking Blackpool could get a win following their form, following how good they've been recently, but the fact that Morgan Gibbs-White returned for what he offers to the Sheffield United side with a creative outlet, drifting in wide, getting the right place and right time, and actually the quality of shots as well, he could really influence and change the game for Sheffield United. So, as a prediction, it's so tricky. With Blackpool, obviously, they had a brilliant performance against Preston. I mean, it's a good win. I wouldn't say the performance. The performance was a little bit, under for what we've seen, but it was a performance they didn't need to actually really go for it. It was a really professional performance. I think that was the more better interpreted word for that game. To predict this game is tricky. I think it'll be tougher for Blackpool, but Sheffield United have been rather inconsistent with their form. I'm going to go for entertaining 2-2 draw. I can see goals in this game. I'll go for 2-2. FIFA 22 is going for 0-0 and completely disagreeing with me, which is no surprise. Next up is Stoke versus Cardiff. Now, Stoke obviously lost their first home game of the season last weekend against Bournemouth. They did have a really good couple of chances, but overall it was a very professional performance by Bournemouth. With Cardiff, obviously this is going to be the first game without the manager of Mick McCarthy, and they still look to this day for a new permanent manager. I've been hearing a couple of links with Alan Pardew, been a couple of links with Chris Wilder and Alex Neil. Alex Neil, I think, will be an alright option, to be honest. I think based on what we've seen with Preston in terms of the defensive setup he sets, but also expanding their football a little bit. I know Cardiff fans want to try and go away from the really root negative direct football, but it's going to take years upon years for them to change to a project. You only need to look at a couple of examples of people trying to change projects and how it can backfire. So Cardiff fans, I will say, be careful what you wish for. Now for this game, it's got that feeling that Cardiff could get something following that the manager's been set. Obviously, Nottingham Forest pick up their first win of the season, so I wouldn't be surprised if you see that here. But against Stoke, I think they'll be comfortable enough. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Stoke. FIFA 22 is going for another 0-0 draw. Let's talk about Swansea going up against Peterborough. Now, Swansea at home have been rather immaculate. They've won their last 2 home games with brilliant results as well. 3-0 win over Cardiff, their South Wales rivals, but also a 2-1 win over promotion rivals West Brom. Swansea's still in a position of the table where I do think they need to try and strive for a little bit more, improving their 16th place at the moment. But when you go and look at it, they are actually only 4 points off the top 6, so it's not too far away for Swansea to try and get something there. Peterborough, they've won back-to-back games for the first time this season, and I think having the ban of Joseph Clark-Harris has actually allowed a couple of players to really expand, especially the likes of Siriki Dembele. I actually think he's thrived a little bit better when he has been the main man to try and deliver with the goals, and he really has delivered. I mean, have you seen Peterborough's form recently? Following his form, they're now outside of the bottom 3, and obviously Hull, who they did beat in midweek, replaced their position in the table. But I do think Swansea at home, I think, are a different team. I think they've got a lot of confidence at home, and I think they will beat Peterborough. I'm going to say a 3-1 victory. I think it'll be rather comfortable, and FIFA 22 is going to go for a 0-0 draw. Final game to predict is Reading against Bournemouth. It is a late game on the Saturday. This will be an interesting game for me because Reading at home have been okay. It's been their away form, Reading, hasn't it? When they've really struggled a little bit. You only got to look at their last away performance against Blackburn, where for me they didn't just do enough. They didn't really turn up at all. But Bournemouth just look unstoppable, don't they? Have you seen their form very, very recently? I mean, they've won 5 of their last 6, and really nothing is stopping them at the moment. They've got a lot of good players available. I love the system that they play in. I like the involvement of their transfers as well. Involving the likes of Ryan Christie, who I think has been a real revelation in this Bournemouth side. I think Bournemouth will churn up a pretty comfortable result there against a Reading side who have still got a very heavy injury list as well. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 away victory to Bournemouth, and FIFA 22 is actually going to go 2-0 Reading. So FIFA's predicting 2-0 Reading, I'm predicting 2-0 Bournemouth. We'll see which one of us is right. But that wraps up my predictions for the Championship games this weekend. Always, guys, make sure you remember you comment your predictions in the comments down below. And if you're wondering, on the left hand side of the screen are my Premier League predictions as well. If you guys want to see a Premier League prediction league, 1,000 subscribers on this channel, we would unlock it. So please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so. Please also give the video a like, it does tremendously help the channel. And please share this video and this channel to as many people as you can. All of that really, really helps. I'm just excited to see what happens in this weekend. That wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Take care.